Do you move too fast when you strength train? Are you trying to get in as many reps as quickly as you can? While this can seem like an efficient and even good way of working out, there are a lot of benefits that you're missing out of when you move too fast. On this week's episode of the Exercise is Health podcast, we're going to lay out 3 for you and what to do to make sure that you are getting these benefits. We're going to cue our introduction and we're going to dive right into this conversation. Hey, welcome back, exercisers, to the Exercise is Health podcast, brought to you by Exercise for Life Studios, where we believe that your health is your most valuable asset. And the single best thing that you can do to both boost and protect this asset is exercise. Specifically, exercise that's geared towards building the health and function of your muscles. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie.
And today we are discussing this idea of what you may be missing out on if you are moving too fast when you strength train. A lot of times we think, I just got to get my workout in. I just got to get the reps in, get the exercises done. But if you're moving too fast, you may be leaving a lot on the table with your workouts. We want to explore what some of those things are. But before we do, we have a favor to ask from you.
That's right. There is one undoubtedly best way that you can support this podcast, and that is by pausing it right now, scrolling to the bottom of Apple iTunes and leaving us that rating and review. Little do you know, that really helps us in our ranking so that our message can reach more people, and it also helps us really score more and more guests for this podcast. So if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes and leave us that rating review. Second of all, we have a free gift for you. Wanted to let you know, we recently have started offering a 2-week free trial on our membership, and people have been loving it. Especially, we're talking about a topic on this podcast. We usually have a program in our membership that is really going to highlight what we've talked about, and then you can go try it for free. So if you want to get in on your free trial, go to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com and you can sign up there.
Right on. All right. So today we're discussing this idea of what might be happening or what might you be missing out on if you're moving too fast. Again, like so often when we think about working out, it's just like, just get it done. Check it off the to-do list. Something is better than nothing. And if I move really fast and I get my heart rate up and I feel really tired and fatigued at the end, that's even better. But that's actually not the truth. Actually, there's a lot that you are missing out on from a benefits perspective, both health and function-wise and strength-wise, and connectedness to your body wise. Those things are left on the table if you end up moving too fast when you're lifting weights. So, and when you're doing your strength training. So what are these things and what can you do about them? Because again, this moving too fast thing, this is one of the biggest things that we have to course correct for people when we start working with them both in person and online.
The other last week, actually, I was working with a client. I was like, so how's your strength training going? Because she doesn't do strength training with me. She usually does MAT with me, and then she does her strength training by herself. She's like, well, it's really boring and I don't really like to do it. And I was like, okay, that's fine. But it's the way that we keep our bodies healthy. And let me explain what we talked about. And I said, so if I were to say, like, every day you got to brush your teeth to keep your teeth and your mouth healthy. This is the way we know it takes 4 minutes a day to brush your teeth, but it is boring. So you say, well, Julie, I don't want to brush my teeth because, it's boring, but I want to use my teeth for other stuff like eating and, opening things, things you shouldn't use your teeth with. And I said, well, it's not like you can't do those other things with your teeth, but you do have to do the basic thing of brushing your teeth. Even if you don't enjoy it, it's something you have to do to keep your mouth and teeth healthy. That is the same thing when it comes to resistance training, especially if you're doing resistance training slow. It is the best way to keep your body, your muscles, your joints healthy, but it doesn't mean that you can't do the other stuff you enjoy. It just means that this is the thing that is like the you need to visit it 2 to 3 times a week and make sure you're doing it on the regular so that you can ensure that, hey, I can go play tennis when I want to. I can pick up my grandkids when I want to. A lot of people like to use those things as their workouts, but your workout actually has to be improving your body, not necessarily just using your body. So no matter how you feel about the moving slowly, I think we have a pretty good spin to make sure it's interesting.
Yeah.
But it is like the foundational level of, hey, this is how I keep my body healthy so that I can do the stuff that I qualify as like quote unquote fun or a sport or the activities that I enjoy. It's like your insurance policy on your muscles and joints. So always keep that in mind when you're thinking about, oh, well, that doesn't sound like something I would really enjoy. Well, it is the way that is like the basic functioning. It's like brushing your teeth. Mm-hmm. You're not brushing your teeth so that they can be brushed. You're brushing your teeth so that you can go and eat the stuff you want, or have the ice cream, or, use it for all the things you shouldn't be using it for, like opening up cracker bags and stuff, or whatever you're going to use your teeth. But you get the point. So moving slowly when you resistance train is the best way to have maintenance care and improvement care on your muscles and joints.
Absolutely. I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is a huge point. We start to feel this resistance to doing our resistance training in this way, because we're like, oh, well, it doesn't seem as interesting as the raw classes and stuff. And yeah, but that's actually not the point. This is the thing that's going to help you keep doing the raw classes, or whatever else in life that is that you want to do. All right. So when we are not doing our resistance training in this way, we're not doing our strength training slow and controlled, what are some things that we're missing out on? Well, one of the big things that we're missing out on is being able to become more flexible, being able to increase our range of motion through our strength training. See, so often when it comes to flexibility, when it comes to improving our joint motion, our mobility and everything, that's seen as something that is separate from your strength training or from your regular workouts. But mostly that's because the way people do their regular workouts is not conducive to building their flexibility, is not conducive to actually building their mobility. In fact, it directly counteracts that. So well, because my workouts are counteracting me becoming more flexible, I now need to add in extra mobility work, flexibility work, stretching, everything like that, in order to try to become more flexible. All right. But when you do your resistance training, when you do your strength training in this slow and controlled way, they don't need to be separate. In fact, your strength training becomes your primary way of becoming more flexible, of increasing your range of motion, of improving your joint mobility.
Now, whenever we think about flexibility, a lot of us think of it's like the presence of something, right? The presence of gumbiness, or however you want to describe it. Actually, a lot of people don't have a good concept of what that means. But in reality, flexibility, mobility, the feeling of feeling loose and mobile is actually the absence of tight muscles, the absence of the restricting muscles. It's not the presence of wiggliness. It's I don't even know how to describe it. It's the absence of the tight stuff. So when you think about your exercise, when you exercise, the normal celebrated result of exercise is the presence of tightness, which is not flexibility, not mobility. And so what's interesting is if you've ever resistance trained in a slow, controlled manner, you will notice you do not develop the presence of the tight stuff, the restrictors. That doesn't develop on a normal basis unless you're doing something wrong. But on a regular basis, when you exercise quickly, it is so common that you get less flexible, meaning you have the presence of the tight stuff, that it's almost like a badge of honor now, because we don't really, no one else knows how to work around it. We don't realize that it could be a reality that you don't have to have this. So anyways, one of the biggest benefits of strength training slowly is that you will increase your range of motion, which a lot of people want from their exercise. It's actually one of the biggest reasons why I hear a lot of my ladies saying, well, I don't want to weight train too heavy, because those people get inflexible. They get immobile. Well, those people aren't exercising slowly, controlled, using their full range of motion. So one of the best results that you are missing if you only resistance train fast and you only exercise fast is that presence of flexibility, mobility, increasing your range of motion. You're going to have a lot of those tight barriers popping up. And it's not because you're not stretching. It's because you're resistance training too quickly.
Exactly. Now, the second benefit that you're going to be missing out on if you are doing your strength training too fast is you're going to miss out on a tremendous opportunity to really build your mind-muscle connection and feel like you have ownership over your body. See, so often when we are moving fast, we get focused on the external things with the exercise of the weights moving up and down, or the choreography that we're trying to match the instructor, and we're not even really feeling what's going on with our body. We're just thinking about okay, how does this look externally? How does this look in the mirror? Am I keeping up, with the tempo of the song, with the rhythm, with the beat and everything? Am I, moving the weight up and down enough times, or, using enough motion when I'm, moving the weight, and everything like that, right? But the problem with that is that, again, it takes our focus and our attention and it moves it outside of our body. And so we get done with our workout and we just spent the last 20, 30, 45, maybe 60 minutes not really connecting with our body, using our body. So now our body feels fatigued and it feels depleted, but we don't feel like, oh yeah, like I'm living within my body because we just spent all this time kind of experiencing the world outside of our body. And so when you slow down when you're doing your strength training, it gives you that opportunity to really focus in on what's going on within your body, to strengthen that mind-muscle connection, and to leave your workouts not only feeling more connected to your body, but feeling like you have ownership over your body, like you can control how your body is positioned, control what your body is doing.
That's right. One of the biggest things that I think is so interesting and accepted in the gym world, and I think it's another thing because we just don't know another way around it, is like when people say like, oh, well, after I exercise or I need to start doing some balance training, I'm going to do like some corrective exercise type stuff, I'm going to do some integrated work, things like that. All of these things actually should be normal results from your normal resistance training when you're doing it slowly. The cool thing, when you exercise in a slow, controlled manner, a normal result of your exercise is going to be a mind-muscle connection. Now, that seems really cool when you're having a problem, but it's actually a cool thing that you need all the time, because when you lose connection between your brain and your body, that's when you start losing balance quickly. And you're like, my balance just is terrible. I can't do these things. Or when you feel like you're losing control of your body in certain areas of your life, like in actions in your life, like when you're doing sports or when you're, picking up your grandkids, you do like a misstep. And those are unavoidable completely. But if you notice that they're starting to creep up, that means that like your level of ability to control these things is plummeting. And a normal thing that you should be getting from your exercise when you're moving slowly is that connection to your body. And we like to kind of call it body ownership, meaning like I get to own my body. It's not just happening to me. I'm not moving and I don't know what's happening. But really tuning in, moving slowly helps us maintain ownership over our body, which allows us to stay in control, especially when we're not like trying to be in control. It's like the subconscious control. And then it also really, really helps with balance. Like your balance, the best way to improve your balance is not through balance exercise, but is going to be through practicing this mind-muscle connection, which is done when you move really slowly with your exercise.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that when people hear about it, they're like, oh, that sounds interesting, but I don't really believe it's going to work. And then when you actually start to put this into practice, where you are moving super slowly while you're doing your strength training, then you leave your workouts and you're like, okay, yeah, I feel more connected. I actually feel stronger. I actually feel healthier and more energized. And I don't feel like I just completely depleted my body. Like I feel like I worked specific areas, but I don't feel completely depleted, and the areas I worked, I feel more connected to. So this is a really, really big thing. It's not just some like kind of woo-woo concept. When you actually put these steps into place that we're going to talk about, it will make this difference for you as far as like, okay, I'm leaving my workouts feeling more connected to my body, feeling like I have greater ownership over my body. And that's a huge thing, not just for your workouts, but to be able to live in that state for the rest of your day. That's a really big thing.
Well, Charlie, I was going to use this analogy that was just a silly one, but makes a lot of sense. So a lot of us have a certain connection to the word of like exercise or workout, and it represents a certain result, right? Like a lot of people think and live by this. This is like a settled, non-changeable rule. If I say, hey, you should go resistance training, or you should go do resistance training, then you think, okay, I'm going to do it. And then the result is I'm sore, I'm achy, I have to take a rest. And that is just the normal thing. And people that do it just accept that as normal. And people that don't do it usually don't do resistance training because they think that is like the next step and there's no other alternative. So, one of my good friends, she just visited this weekend, and she likes weird, like healthy things. Like I think I like weird, healthy things, but she likes different weird, healthy things. And one of those healthy things is carrot juice. And I think I hate carrots. I hate carrot juice. But anyways, she likes carrot juice. So when she got here, we bought some carrot juice. And my kids, they don't get juice very often. So when I say the word juice, their wildest dreams come true. The only juice they've ever had, by the way, is apple juice. So they're like, oh, juice. And then like, everything is on hold. The world pauses until they get that juice, which is always apple juice because that's, what they get. And so it was so funny. So my friend was here. We had carrot juice. She's like, I'm going to have some juice. And the kids are like, juice. Oh my gosh, need the juice. So they run over. They take a sip of this carrot juice. And it is just disgusting. And they just can't even believe that something called juice could be represented as carrot juice. Could be carrot juice, right? Because in their head, when I said juice, it only represented one thing, which was delicious apple juice. So I'm bringing this up because sometimes when we bring up the word exercise or the word resistance training, we have this immediate belief that it's going to be this thing that causes soreness, achiness, and I either accept that or I decide I'm not going to do it because I don't like those feelings, or you decide I'm going to do it so light that I get no results, and then I go through this cycle of you know the picture. But here's the thing. There is another representation of resistance training. And luckily we're switched. So like you guys get the apple juice. What you think you're going to get is carrot juice, the gross stuff, but you're really going to get the apple juice, even though they're both juice, right? So using this idea to really get all these benefits is really critical. And knowing that, hey, just because your representation and the normal representation of exercise leads us down this path of like losing range of motion and being less flexible and having to do all these extra, balance training now doesn't mean that that's the only way. And I think that's like a big limiting thing that's currently in the fitness industry. But we want to talk about one more benefit that you're missing out on.
Yeah, for sure. So this third benefit that you're missing out on if you are moving too fast when you're strength training is you are missing out on selective muscle work, okay? Meaning you're missing out on really targeting specific muscles, specific areas of your body, really challenging those areas. And then ultimately what that means is you're missing out on truly maximizing your results for those areas. Because a lot of times what happens is we start to move too fast in part because we're starting to get fatigued. And because we're getting fatigued and we feel like we need to, keep doing the reps or whatever, and we move faster, we also use other muscles. We also involve other areas of our body. A classic example of this is like doing a shoulder press, okay? You're doing a shoulder press. If you're standing, you're doing a shoulder press, and all of a sudden you start to get a little bit fatigued and you start to use your legs to try to lift the weight up in addition to using your shoulders. And before you know it, you're going from doing a shoulder press to doing a push press to doing a squat with dumbbells, okay? And you're just trying the idea of like, oh, well, I'm just trying to move faster. I'm just trying to get the weight up, everything like that. But you end up missing out on actually building the strength, actually building the results, actually building even like the endurance capabilities of the muscles that you're specifically trying to work with each exercise. What you end up with is you get done with your workout and it's not like, oh yeah, I really feel connected to my shoulders, or I really feel like, this area of my body was, thoroughly worked and, fatigued in a good way. You end up feeling like this systemic fatigue, this systemic, feeling of like, oh my gosh, I just need to lie down and, take a nap to try to, help my body recover and help my body feel better because my whole system just feels super depleted. And so when you can slow down and really focus in on the muscles that you are trying to work, the moving slowly will help you target those muscles that you are trying to work, which not only will get you better results for those muscles, but help you recover faster from your workouts as well.
Charlie, a lot of exercises, as specific as they seem, generally will turn into some kind of full body effort over time. It's like, I'm here doing shoulder press, like you were saying, like I'm pressing weights over my head and then my shoulders get tired. So then my body gets into it. And then at least I got my 10 reps in. But it was 10 reps of like this full body experience rather than really specific targeted work. And here's the benefit of having really specific targeted work. One of Charlie and I's goals with having this podcast, with having our platform, all of that stuff is to help you exercise for the length of your life. Meaning we're thinking longevity. We're thinking exercise for every single year that you have yet to live. We want you exercising, moving, and staying strong. And being specific with muscle work is one of the top ways to keep you moving. Here's the thing. I'm going to say this and you're like, yeah, I have 5 friends that have told me that, or I've said that to myself. Okay, so you have recently injured your ankle, and so now you have decided that your injury of your ankle is the reason you are not going to exercise until your ankle has healed, which is generally a minimum of like 6 weeks. Have you ever heard that? Or, I'm having a hip issue right now, so I'm not going to be exercising. That's my reason, right? Well, that's a really good reason if every exercise that you do is this total body thing. Like the shoulder press turns into a full body press, or your crunches turn into this full body thrusting thing, right? Instead of having this muscle specific work. And so here's the thing. We are all going to have things that pop up in our life, especially joint issues, that we think this is the reason I should take a break from exercise. But when you have developed your exercise program, or you have guidance that will allow you to do muscle specific work, it leads you away from having every exercise using every single muscle a joint, which will allow you to really continue to exercise and stay strong even while your body's healing. And really, if you're continuing to exercise, continuing to stay strong, this will allow you to heal faster from any kind of issue. And you'll notice, wow, I have way less issues. Like my flare-ups are way less, because your body's just getting stronger. You're not just using your body, you're building your body. So the last really cool thing, or the last benefit that you are missing out on if you're always moving fast with your exercise, is this selective muscle work, which is one of the key things to continuing to keep you exercising for the length and the longevity of your life.
Absolutely. That is a huge thing. Okay, so obviously the answer then is, well, you need to move more slowly. Right? Like that's kind of like, all right, well, the answer is you need to move more slowly, but moving slowly can actually feel super difficult, and it can feel difficult for a few different reasons. Number one is trying to coordinate emotion to be slower rather than faster can be very challenging, strictly from a coordination standpoint, especially when you're used to doing it faster. Number two is most of the time we have absolutely no awareness of how fast we're actually moving. If, I tell a client, hey, take 3 seconds to lift the weight up, we think because it feels challenging and because our brain is saying, well, okay, it's kind of like when you hold your breath and you think, oh my gosh, that must have been like 10 minutes and it was like 45 seconds.
Yes.
Like you think you're setting records and you're just barely scraping by. And that's kind of similar to what happens when we're lifting weights. We think we're moving really slowly, but if you actually put a timer to it, you're actually moving relatively fast. All right. So not only are we completely unaware of like how fast we're actually moving, and then on top of that, I lost my train of thought once I went to give that breathing example, but I'll get back to it. The other thing that I want to say about moving slowly is when you try to say, okay, well, this is the like set number of seconds I'm going to take to do this part of the lift, like lower the weight for 3 seconds and then back up for 2 seconds or anything like that. It can feel really tedious. It can feel really like, oh my gosh, do I need to watch the clock every single time that I'm doing this? And not only that, but not all exercises are built the same. So 3 seconds down and 2 seconds up for, a biceps curl is going to be a much different speed that you're moving than 3 seconds down and 3 seconds up, and 2 seconds up for a squat, for example, just because of the amount of motion that's happening. So all of this to say is, yes, we want you moving slowly, but as far as like you need to use like these exact parameters and everything like that when it comes to moving slowly, there's no one size fits all approach to this. So what we have is a general rule of thumb, okay? And the general rule of thumb is what we call a school zone analogy. And the school zone analogy says, if it is a Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. and you are driving by a school and the posted speed limit says, 15 miles an hour when children are present, are you looking at your speedometer saying, I'm going 15 miles an hour and I'm just going to go 15? Or are you saying, I'm only going to go as fast, I'm not going to go more than 15, but I'm only going to go as fast as I know that I can stop immediately? All right. If a child darts out, if a puppy darts out, if a parent chasing a child, chasing a puppy darts out, like you have to be able to stop at a moment's notice, no skidding, no bouncing, no jiggling of your car, no nothing. It has to be able to stop immediately. And that's how you progress through the school zone. All right. So if you can take that mindset and apply it to the exercises that you're doing, no matter what the exercise is when you're doing your strength training, imagine that you are doing this as if you are going through a school zone, which means at a moment's notice, you need to be able to stop and either then continue to move or change your direction or whatever. If you can just approach it and view your exercise through that lens, the moving slowly piece Oh my gosh, it will completely transform how you go about executing and performing your exercises.
Charlie, you're totally right that moving slowly can be really challenging. I think our body's natural ability is efficiency. So that means quicker, less work. And when you move slowly, you have to do more work. But we're at the gym. We're there to work. So you're going to notice that every cell in your body is going to be like, move faster. We want to go faster. So that's why it becomes challenging. Now, if you want to see me really challenged by moving so slowly, I want you to check out our new program. You're going to see what we say. So every single program in our Exercise for Life membership includes moving slowly. But we did a program that's coming out that is exceptionally slow. And the whole goal was practicing that slowness. And you'll see all the hiccups that we go through and communicating and talking about what we're doing with that. And it's called Targeted Tempo Training. It's going to drop in the membership on September 4th. So definitely check it out when it drops. Get your 2-week free membership so you can try it out. But this was a really fun program, actually. The whole idea was practicing that really slow tempo and the thoroughness of muscle contraction and like feeling of goodness after was like super high for me. I really loved it. So
absolutely.
Again, we always move with control in all of our programs, and we instruct you to do it, but we don't always move this slowly. So if you really want to dive in, try it out. We'll guide you through every single workout. It's a eight workout program. Check out Targeted Tempo Training. Again, it drops in the membership on September 4th, and you can get your hands on a 2-week free membership by going to www.exerciseforlifestudios.com.
So who do you know that needs to hear this episode? Who do you know that moves really fast when they're doing their strength training, thinking that that is a superior or better way to exercise, or that's the only way that they know how to exercise? Share this episode with them so they can understand the things that they're missing out on by moving too fast when they're doing their strength training. And while you're online, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find our podcast when they're looking for information on exercise and they're looking for information on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week, and we'll talk with you all next week. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Julie and Charlie Gates, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements or advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical issue, consult a licensed physician.